Us. Um, Great. Thanks for joining us. We're around 3 years into the employer standards now. So we launched the framework and tool just over 3 years ago. And it's just great to have a lot of interest in hearing how employers are using the framework and their results and recommendations and resources. And this is a good time of year, I think, because we're just coming up to the end of our academic year. Most people are just wrapping up their delivery with schools and colleges. And it's a really good time to be thinking about that sort of strategic reset and review and how you can sort of review and improve everything for the year to come. So I know some of you will just be thinking, I actually just need to take a breath and pause. But once you've done that, maybe taking some time over the summer as well to have a little think about what you've learnt and what you might do differently for next year. So in terms of somehow clicked on the link there, which I didn't mean to do. Oh dear. Don't know how. Right. Okay. You can go back. My goodness me. It's just the day of it today. Okay. I think we're back on track now. What we're going to cover today, a reminder of the framework and tool, because I know we've got a few people who are joining who actually haven't used the tool yet and just are a little bit curious, but I'll keep that very brief. And then an overview of who's been using it today, where we're seeing the strengths and gaps, and also where we're seeing the most progress from those who've come back and used the tool a subsequent time. And of course, our guest speakers, and some time for Q&A as well. So for those of you who are newer to the tool and framework, just to sort of give a recap, the Employer Standards Framework is a framework that sets out what good looks like in terms of employer engagement in careers education. And then the online tool allows you to answer some questions and review yourself against that framework, get some scores against that, reminding yourself that that is best practice. So don't be daunted if you don't score well. And I'm sure you'll hear from the employers today who often will say that the first time they used the tool, they didn't score as highly as they might have liked, but actually gave them some useful sort of baseline to sort of start reviewing. And don't be disheartened, because the mere fact that you're actually taking the time to do something strategic in terms of a review is actually a brilliant first step and already sets you well apart from many others who might be doing what we would call sort of well-intended but not particularly impactful work. And so the more that you think about that sort of strategic impact for your business and for young people, the better you'll get. So the tool is there to help you. It's not there to judge you. It's just there to give you a bit of a sense of direction, ask you some questions that you might be already asking yourself, remind you of some things that you might have actually been intending to do but just never quite got round to, and give you some resources to help you along the way. In terms of who's used the tool, we've got over 1,750 employers who've used the tool already. It's actually gone up even a bit more than that in the last 24 hours, which is reflective of the time of year. And a really good spread of sizes and a really good spread of sectors, which is really useful to see and also gives you that great comparator data. Not just those sectors, but those are the biggest groupings that we have at the moment. We publish our annual insights each year. We published in January this year, but we cut the data in September. So again, why it's a great time to be thinking about doing your latest assessment, because that means from an aggregate perspective, and obviously anonymised data, but aggregate, we'll get to include that in the next year's insights. And that tells a really interesting picture about the system as a whole and how it's moving and changing, and gives us that really interesting industry snapshots and overall data. So in terms of the 9 areas, the ones that we see are the strongest are be inclusive, which is really great to see, although I think that masks some areas where employers are doing some really great work on inclusion, but other areas where there are still gaps. So we're still encouraging employers to think more about how they could really engage with those young people who will benefit most. And I think many of you will have seen the Milburn review and know that there are many young people who are really not having their needs met, whether that be young people with SEND or young people in alternative provision or young people who face a significant number of barriers to accessing opportunities within the workplace. So that's an area that we encourage, more focus and more targeting on, but there is some great work happening within our employer communities. Also some really good, strong things in terms of building essential skills, which again is we know very topical, and raising awareness of pathways, which is that sort of apprenticeships and technical education. And then the areas where we'd love to see even more focus around evaluation. So there's still a lot of work that's happening that's not being evaluated or not being evaluated with all groups. So young people, educators and employee volunteers. And then more work, although we've seen progress on this with Standard 5, which is preparing young people for application processes. So that jump from helping them understand the world of work to helping them get into the world of work. And then lastly, valuing the engagement. So actually treating this as a business metric. And I know one of our guest speakers is going to talk a little bit about that in particular. So look forward to that. And then the areas that we've seen the most progress are those ones that had the lowest scores generally. So really nice to see that when employers do come back, do focus on these areas, they are seeing those scores improve. So they are actually getting that growth and progress, which is really good to see. Another thing just to mention that from employers who do come back and use the tool, again, we saw that 96% of them showed at least one increase in the business benefits they were reporting, which is great to see that that's also improving. The average improvement per standard for all employers across the board was 9% per standard. And for cornerstone employers who are employers who work with our careers hub in an advisory capacity and supporting the hub at that local place-based level, that was even greater at 14% per standard. And we also saw a really nice increase in the number of employers who are working to prepare young people for application processes by delivering mock assessment centre experiences. And there was a 12% jump in that. So really nice to see some practical changes that this sort of review process is driving. Great. So now I wanted to hand over to the first of our guest speakers. And it's lovely to have, as I said, 4 speakers from 4 different types of businesses to talk to you today about the experience that they've had of using the employer standards. I'm going to do my best to drive the slides and see if we can keep up with them. So firstly, I'd like to hand over to Louise Dunn from Booths. So thanks, Louise, for joining, and over to you.
Thank you, Mani. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to have the opportunity to come and talk to you today regarding the employee standards. We have been using employee standards for a good couple of years now, and I couldn't recommend it more in terms of developing your education and careers agenda. If we could move on one slide, Mani, please. Very quickly, I thought it'd be worthwhile just mentioning who we are, because I appreciate there's people from all over the country on the call this morning. A lot of people get us confused with Boots when I try to pronounce Boots, but we're quite different. We are primarily a retailer. We're considered a food and drink specialist in the north of England, and we've been trading since 1847. So, we've got around 25 stores and operate 20 cafes, and we also do our manufacturing, tea blending and coffee roasting. We are considered a bit of a secret in the north, but the next time you come up north, please make sure you come and visit us. You'll get a warm northern welcome from all of our teams. So just moving on then, please. So obviously we're here today to talk about the employer standards, and I just wanted to put it into context with our careers and education strategy at Booths. So we've got a strategy in place now called Growing Healthy Minds, and we launched this back in 2023. As a business, we've always given time and energy to careers requests from local schools and organisations, etc. But prior to 23, we really lacked any sort of strategic approach, and we were quite spontaneous and reactive to requests that came in, and obviously it did have some value when we were giving recognition from local schools, etc., for the efforts we'd gone to, but it was really hard to tell if we were putting our resources and energy into the right things in the right way and making the right kind of difference. So, the employer standards for us has really helped to shape our strategy and create meaningful action plans that mean that, we can focus on the things that are going to make the difference, not just for us as an employer, but also for, our local communities to which we serve. We work really closely with the Lancashire Careers Hub and the Careers Enterprise Company. We work with local schools, colleges, SEND, alternative provision organisations as well. And we work together in partnership really to create those meaningful encounters, using the standards to make sure we've got that structure and focus in place. The experiences we offer, span the full food journey from farm to fork. And it really helps young people to see, the breadth of careers available in the food and drink industry. We try to make them as practical and as experiential as possible, inspiring and inclusive. And the thing for us really using the employer standards is it really helps to make sure that, young people who may not have necessarily seen that they had a career in our industry can absolutely see that there's a place for them in what we do. And we can absolutely guarantee that, through using the standards, we've been able to do that really effectively. Again, just before I move on to this slide, I'll just give you a really quick potted history of Booth. So if you don't know much about us, we were founded on the belief that opportunities can change a life. And our founder, Edwin Henry Booth, actually ran away from home as a young boy and began his working life as an apprentice because somebody gave him a chance. And that early chance offered at the right moment, should I say, set him on a path that would eventually lead to the creation of our business. We currently employ around 3,500 people. So his story is really a reminder, that talent often appears in unexpected places, and that a single opportunity can change a lifetime. So that principle really continues to shape how we do things today at Booth, and it's not standalone as an initiative. It's embedded in everything we do, from attracting young people into the workforce to developing and to partnering with people and communities that we serve. So, in terms of the employee standards, I think you can see how it really aligns with our sort of values and ethos at Booth in terms of how we like to do things. And it's been instrumental in how we've shaped our offer. So this next slide, I just wanted to show you really top line some of the plans that we've got in place at the moment and how these have been directly influenced by the employee standards. So, I've highlighted a couple here, but I'll just give you a few that really sort of stand out. So, when you look at the standards, obviously there's 9 standards, and what we try to do is take a real sort of holistic view when we look at the standards and think about each one sort of threads through the activities that we commit to delivering. So, standard 1 around providing meaningful opportunities, you can see that sort of spanning through some of the work that we're doing. So, just if you think about the, community engagement, we've tried to focus on different areas of our community where we can see that the need is greatest. So we look at the standard and think, are we focusing on the right schools and colleges? Should we be focusing in different areas where there is higher levels of need, that kind of thing. So we focus our work around the standard and things like, just this year we've done a project called Reimagining Work Experience, and the reason we did that was because we were looking at the report that we had from our employee standards assessment and recognised that whilst we were doing a nice to do activity, we weren't really sure that the students that came out the other side of that were going away thinking that they had an insight into the careers that are available, that they understood the different roles in the business, that they understood the relationship between what we do at Rees and the curriculum, so where those subjects come into their own, at school. So they were able to make more links, so the work experience review that we've done has made sure that we're making those links to curriculum, we're talking about careers, we're building in time for the students to spend time with various people in the team, so they don't just go onto a shop floor and stack tins on a shelf, they're talking to the commercial managers, the greengrocers, the people that work on checkouts, and our quality team, food safety, etc. So they're getting a real sort of span of experience. We've also looked at it through an inclusive lens, which we'll talk to you a little bit more about shortly. We're doing a number of different things, such as teacher encounter days, working with teachers to give them that insight and that confidence to make those links with their subject area and what we do at Booths. And we're doing a number of different industry days with various schools and organisations. And just recently, we did one with an alternative provision school, where we took our barista trainers into the school. And because when we worked closely with that school, they explained to us the fact that, a lot of their children and young adults were not into sitting down learning and doing academic stuff, so it wasn't worthwhile bringing a presentation in, but what they did really engage with was physical and practical activities. So we were able to shape that activity by looking at You know, we did some actual barista training with them and some coffee tasting and that kind of thing. So, so again, you know, looking at the standards, but working with your partners as well to see what really matches with what they need. You're able to sort of use it in that way as well. We do obviously use the tool as an evaluation method as well. So I think that's something that's really critical with this, is that, you know, it's great and very exciting to get along with all your plans, but it's important, as with any measure in a business, to stop, take a moment and think about, you know, have you delivered what you set out to deliver? You know, what was missing last year? What are we scoring lower on this year? And how do we want to build that into our plans for the years ahead? So it's a real sort of cyclical process, and it sort of stops you in your track to really take a beat to think, you know, is what we plan to do still the right thing that we should plan to do in the future, or do we need to change it based on what we're hearing from our partners? So that's just a little bit of a snapshot in terms of, you know, what we do at Booze. I mean, this is just a plan on a page that we use with our volunteers within the business, just to kind of make sure we're all lined up in terms of what we're doing. If we could just move on to the next page, please, Marnie. So these are just another couple of examples of some of the things that we've done and that have been influenced and shaped by the employer standards. So one of the standards where we felt we weren't scoring high enough was around inclusion and making sure that we're providing meaningful opportunities for students in the SEND space. So, you know, the statistics are quite stark, you know, for NEET, but it's suggested that, you know, people that are SEND are potentially twice as more likely to become NEET in the future. So it really concerns us, this, because, you know, we've got a number of people working in our organisation that, you know, have different, you know, and neurodivergent conditions, that kind of thing. But there's a place for them at Boots. You know, we make sure that we shape roles around their strengths and capabilities, and it shouldn't be any different in our education space and our career space, because this is the talent pipeline of the future. So Boots at Bleasdale, we were contacted by a school in Lancashire who, to be honest, all they wanted from us was small old uniforms, because they wanted to do some role playing with their students so they could experience what it felt like shopping, or experience what it felt like working in a shop as well. So when we saw that, you know, and knowing what we wanted to achieve from our plan from an inclusion point of view, we thought, you know, we could do much better than this. So what we ended up doing was building a real shop in one of the classrooms. So we provided tills, we provided racking, signage, you know, we provided training materials, decal for the walls, products for them to sell. And what that has meant is that, you know, we've been able to provide something for that school, for those students, that means that, you know, they can experience what it feels like in terms of work experience in their own environment where they feel comfortable, but also, you know, equipping them with life skills, you know, about the confidence to go into shops and the social skills that are required. You know, and from our point of view as well, it doesn't just benefit, you know, the school, but it benefits our colleagues as well, because the level of engagement we saw from our colleagues that got involved with that, you know, was second to none, and it gave people a real sense of pride as well. So, you know, this is something we're absolutely proud of, and from that project, the school were able to get funding to set up other units as well. So now they've got pretend hairdressers and pretend doctors as well, you know. And I think what's really, really key about this project is that it's you know, with doing something like a careers day, you know, you go in and you deliver it and you come away and you hope that you've made an impact on some students. But with this one, you know, we've done that little bit of investment, which means that it's a sustainable project and a sustainable initiative, that when we exit, you know, they've got that school space, you know, for years to come for many students to benefit from. Just moving on to the next slide, please. The Country Trust is another organisation that we're working with at the moment, and again, this has been directly linked to our thinking around how can we make our outreach more inclusive based on the standard feedback that we got when we did the employer standards. And this one for us is really important because the Country Trust, if you're not familiar with it, provide country farm experiences for students that come from less advantaged backgrounds, you know. So what we're doing at the moment, we're working in partnership with one of our drinks suppliers, and we're basically we offer a kids meal deal in our cafes, and for every meal deal that we sell, we're putting 25p towards this initiative, and when we get to a set amount, we'll then fund X number of students to go on one of these visits. And I went out on one of these visits myself, and it was just eye-opening, you know, to think about the different access to education and careers resources that students get from schools where they are less advantaged. You know, some of the students I met on that visit had never left the local area. They were from an inner city school, and some students didn't even have wellies to wear. You know, it was quite eye-opening. But I think what it did for me was give me this sort of realization that, you know, sometimes it's just one meaningful encounter that can change somebody's future destination and give them that aspiration in terms of what they want to achieve in the future. So this is another one that we're really proud of, but we're just working on this one at the moment. And then quickly, I'll just talk you through another couple of things as well. So I just wanted to help you as employers and schools see that, you know, as an organisation, we've got a bigger sphere of influence. And at Boones in particular, you know, we call ourselves a good grocer because we see ourselves as not just a retailer, but we're about doing the right thing and being able to positively influence the local community that we serve. And these are some of the points that, you know, really link to the employer standards, in the fact that, you know, we look to remove barriers to opportunity and create as many meaningful encounters as possible. We actively create routes for people, young people in particular, you know, who otherwise might be excluded. So whether it's from an alternative provision background, SEND, you know, a school where perhaps, you know, students haven't got parents that might have careers that they can talk about, you know, so we try to help parents as well. We try our best to support young people as long as it takes in ways that work for them. So that leads on to our programmes that we offer when you are employed by us in the future. So we've had students join us who have dropped out of college, who joined us on one of our specialist counters, you know, to work on the butchery counter with no experience in cooking, let alone working on a butchery counter. And we had one 18-year-old who, you know, joined us as a stopgap, didn't see a career in a retail environment, you know, just thought we were about putting tins on shelves. And she went on to work on our counter. She went through our butcher academy, and the academy runs from anywhere from 12 weeks to 6 months. And we commit to keeping people on those programs as long as it takes, because we believe that, you know, everybody learns in different ways, and, you know, you shouldn't just expect everyone to be at the right standard after 12 weeks. And at the end of that 6-month program, she was a qualified butcher, you know, and it was the start of a career that's led on to going on to our future manager program just recently. And we make our decisions to support and operate in a way that's sustainable. So going back to that Bleasdale initiative, you know, we want to make positive change, but we want it to be sustainable and to still be standing once we exit. So, you know, when you think of our sphere of influence as an employer, you know, and speaking directly to employers, that, you know, your influence will run through all of your strategies, but, you know, it's important to partner with other organisations that provide value. And when you use employee standards, you know, it provides a framework that will help shape your approach and change that, you know, good intention into measurable and meaningful impact. You know, so for us, it's really provided that framework. And I think the next slide maybe is one of the last. So probably going over a little bit here, but I'll be really quick. Obviously, this will be recorded, so you can have a look at this in more detail. But what I wanted to just express as well is that, you know, is creating that sort of value partnership with doing things like, you know, working with the employer standards and working with the careers hubs, you know, is one aspect of it. Once you understand what you want to do and what you want to build, think about how that links into other partnerships that you've got. So for us, we've got some really strong relationships with WorkFit and the East Lancashire Down Syndrome Support Group. And, you know, we talked to them about the work we were trying to achieve with our work experience programme. And we were just really, really conscious that we didn't have that expertise. You know, we wanted to make sure that our work experience was accessible for everyone. So, you know, we came up with a proposal and scoped what we wanted to do in line with the employer standards. And then we partnered with WorkFit and the East Lancs Down Syndrome Support Group to get them to look at it through their lens to see, you know, would this work? Would this, should we change this to make sure that, you know, people want to come and do work experience with us? And, you know, really simple things like work experience not being a full week, but being maybe an hour a week for some students would be more appealing. And actually for us as an employer, that's easier to deliver as well. You know, so I think, you know, what I'm trying to say here is there's a value exchange here, you know, that, you know, through the partnerships that you've already got, using the framework as what it is, you know, it really helps with that success. So that last slide there, if you just want to go back to that last one, just brings it all together really. You know, for me, the employer standards provides the framework, our team provides the energy and the passion, and our partnerships create that value exchange. So, you know, for us being a good grocer, it's about using all means of information to create that success and those opportunities for all. So hopefully that's given you an insight into what we do at Boots and how we've applied the employee standards. And certainly, if you want to follow up with any emails, I'm happy to take questions, after today's call as well. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Louise. It's really inspiring and absolutely really focuses in on the issues that I know are really front of mind for so many people at the moment, particularly with the Milburn Review and the high level of NEETs and just so many young people not having the opportunities they need to get that inspiration. So thank you so much for sharing your approach. I'm sure everyone's taken a lot away from that.
No problem, thank you.
And we will come to a sort of Q&A for all the speakers after we've heard from all the speakers. So do keep questions or pop them in the chat if they occur to you as we go along, and we'll come to those. We're going to now go to both a different employer and a different style. So Steve Saunders from Alun Griffiths and I are going to have just sort of a Q&A style. So Steve, thanks for joining us. Tell us a little bit about Alun Griffiths, the type of business you are and what you're doing in careers education and how you came to use the employer standards.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Hi, everybody. And thanks for inviting me, Marnie. It's great to be here and speaking to everybody. So we're probably at the opposite end of the scale to Louise, because I think we only completed the standard assessment 2 or 3 months ago. So this is more about how we've gone through the process and what we're doing with the stuff now. But Alun Griffiths, so we're a civil engineering and construction contractor. We work across Wales, the South West and the Midlands, employ about 500 people. We're a member of the 5% Club, so we do quite a lot around apprenticeships and graduates and T-level placements and things like that already. I've always had a sort of well-embedded school engagement program, and I've always done a lot in schools. But I think the standard has now given us a bit more of a framework to improve what we do, and probably made us consider some of the parts of our initiatives that we perhaps weren't assessing previously. So it's given us a really good framework for continuous improvement.
Great. And what did you find particularly beneficial about using the standards?
I've probably just covered that with the framework of where to improve. I think for us, like I say, completing it 2 or 3 months ago, our approach was to be brutally honest. So we haven't tried to sort of flower it up and say, oh, we do that, so we'll say yes, or we'll say embedded to this question. We've been really, really honest with our assessment, and we went about that by initially just getting the standard and sitting down as a social value team and saying, okay, of these 9 standards and all the underpinning bullet points, what do we do? What do we do well? Where do we need to improve? And where are we not doing anything at all? And actually, by going through that and putting yes, no, maybe, and then eventually taking the assessment, they both really closely align. And probably what I've got to say is, I think we scored, I've got it here in front of me, 5 are in the achieving range, and then the remainder are all in aspiring. So that's sort of less than 50%. And some of them were as low as 10 and 14%. So we've been really sort of self-critical, but aspirational in the sense that this has given us the areas to where we want to focus and where we want to change and do more. So that's been really useful, I'd say. And of course, in completing it as well, we've also got now the completers badge that helps us sort of advertise that we're doing this and promote that we're committed to school engagement, work experience, and all the future talent stuff that we want to do.
Yeah, I think it's an underrated asset, actually, that completers badge that comes with your email from the portal when you complete, just to sort of have something that shows that you are someone who's committed to working in a high quality way. So great to know you're using that. And also, I love what you said there about, bringing lots of colleagues together and having a really honest conversation, because I think unlike a lot of other tools, it is something to help you, and not there's no benefit in gaming the system with it. It just genuinely is I guess a tool for reflection, and it's in your interest to be as honest as you have been, which is great.
Yeah, I probably should have said, Marnie, as well. So Griffiths has recently been reacquired by our former founder and owner, so we've recently come out of a larger business. So that's coincided quite nicely that we've just released our new social value strategy. And under that strategy, we've got a future talent priority. And then the standard in this assessment has really helped us build out that and really focus on what we do well, where we need to improve, and helped us build out the sort of supporting programs that we want to put under our future talent pillar of our social value strategy. So that probably links into that standard 9 that we said about, that I sort of felt that standard 9 was probably the one that perhaps could be number one, because that's what influences everything. How are you building what you're doing into your business plans? What's the benefit of it? How's it affecting the business? So that for me, that number 9 was the priority. We scored 14% on that. I'll be honest. So straight away we're like, right, that's one that we want to focus on. And then we picked one of the other ones, which was standard 3, the evaluate and improve. And one of our social value regional coordinators is looking at that one. And that's basically saying, we do all this great stuff, but are we asking the right people for feedback and helping us evaluate? So we were always asking students to complete feedback forms, but were we asking the teachers? Maybe sometimes, but what we definitely weren't doing is asking our own staff of what they were getting out of it and how they felt and where we could support them and really improve as well. So again, one of the lowest scoring ones was standard 3 that we want to do some more around as well.
Yeah, that's great. And I love your focus on standard 9, because I do think you're right. Once you sort of understand why you're doing it and what you can start to measure, you just treat it like every other business metric and, start to better understand the return on investment. And that gives you your business case to do more. And interesting that unsurprisingly, the sector that scores the best on standard 9, which is value the engagement, is the financial services sector, who I think, quite good at understanding whether or not they're getting value for money in the things they do. So I think we'll all be interested to hear how you go. And I think it's so important to set a baseline, particularly when you've got a new strategy, and just as you've done, be very honest with your approach. So thank you for your honesty.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say as well on standard 9, probably we're going back to previous question about the benefit. What that's done as well is enable us to go to other departments with the business. So be it HR, be it communications, and say, we're working to this standard. What do you think about this? How can we improve this? And that's almost given me leverage to go to other department heads of and say, we're working to this. Can your team support? And that's been really valuable then in embedding our social value strategy and that future talent pillar of that and our activities underneath.
That's great. Thank you. So final question then, and obviously we'll come back to you with the Q&A. I can see there are questions coming through on the chat, but in terms of what you'd say to another employer who's sort of, I guess, wondering whether or not this is going to be worth their time, what would you say?
Well, I'd say there's no reason not to do it, as in it's instantly gives us that framework to highlight where we need to improve. So that's a huge benefit straight away. It was really easy to complete. And what you're getting out of it, along with the resources of how to improve, is like I say, that framework to take you to the next step. And the plan for us is then to complete this assessment year on year. And ideally, the social value coordinators that I've tasked with looking at some of the low scoring standards, we want to see that improve year on year, and we want to see it embedded more across the business. So yeah, I don't think there is anything to put people off doing it. It was really easy to do, and what the benefits of what you get definitely outweighs the work. I think the main point I'd say is if you complete it and you get the scores, that's the easy part. What's difficult then, or where the work becomes, is actually doing it again. Implementing the changes to make sure you improve and measuring again the next time, because it's okay looking at it and saying, okay, we can do this, we can do that. But if you're not going to measure again in 12 months time, then what's to say anything's improved or anything's changed?
Brilliant. That's great. Thank you so much, Steve, for your time. And I think that brings us on really nicely, actually, to Anna, who's our next guest speaker, who will be able to talk us through that exact journey of, coming back and doing the work and seeing that progress. So Anna, welcome. Over to you.
Thank you, Marnie. Nice to meet everybody virtually. So thanks for listening in. So I guess, again, just a really brief intro into our business, just, the context in which we're operating. So if you want to move to the next slide, Marnie. For those that don't know, Worldwide Fruit, we are a fruit packing manufacturer. So we source fruit both globally and within the UK. We get the fruit to our facility in Spalding. We pack it as whole head pieces of fruit. And the products that we do are nicely graphicked on the screen there. So apples, pears, avocados, stone fruit and fruit baskets. And then those products go out to our retail customers, and we as consumers buy them in the shop. So essentially that is what we do as a business. And I think, we operate from Spalding in South Holland in Lincolnshire. So we are saturated with lots of other either food manufacturing businesses or fresh produce businesses, which is absolutely fantastic. We've got some good supply chain around us, which makes, business good. But equally what that does is it means that we are all using and exploring the same talent pools at the point that we want to recruit people and bring them into our business. And South Holland has a low unemployment rate, so there isn't a lot of people looking for jobs, which makes it even more competitive. And equally, I think with food manufacturing and fresh produce, it can be really difficult to attract people into our industry, because when I tell you that we're a fruit manufacturer, everybody instantly thinks, oh, that means working in a factory. And I can tell you it absolutely doesn't. And this is one of the really sort of key things in terms of our business case. Within our business, we have 84 different job titles. And when we tell young people that, they really raise their eyebrows and go, oh, wow, okay. Because I think, there is this conception and perception that food and fresh produce and manufacturing is just shop floor work. But we've got 84 different job titles. We've got 7 different functions within that. We've got multi-generational workforce, which I'm sure most people do have, but also a multi-demographic in terms of nationality as well. So it's really interesting space to be in and to be working in, with loads and loads of opportunity. And it's really difficult to bring that to life for young people if you can't get them into your business to really immerse them and see what it is that you actually do. So if you want to go to the next slide, Marnie. So we sort of first learned about the employer standards through our local careers hub. So Donna and Lee came out to visit me one really sunny afternoon and sort of said, talk to us about what you do currently for young people and what sort of activities that you have in place. This was back in 2023. And, just being really honest, we did a bit of work experience at that point. It was really ad hoc. It was very unstructured. It was based around what we thought young people wanted. And as much as I like to think I am still young at heart, things change, the world moves on. And, I was disconnected from ways of learning, which are very different now, ways of communicating, which are very different. And, very ad hoc, very unstructured. And we didn't have solid partnerships with some of the schools, so it really was on a first come first serve basis. So actually we didn't understand what the school needed to do either. So we were trying to do our best, and I think Steve mentioned it's really well intentioned, but actually it wasn't effective at all. We were just it was a bit of side of edge of the desk type activity that we were doing. So introduced to the Careers Hub, learnt about the employer standards, and this was our very first assessment of ourselves. So as you can see, not great, the scores, all sort of below 50%. And I think, one of the things that really stood out to us was we thought we were doing okay. So even though we sort of knew it was a bit unstructured, etc., we still thought it was, what we were doing was the right things. And I think if you move on to the next slide, Marnie, what really came to life when we, when we completed the assessment was actually there were lots of areas that we needed to improve in. And I think until you make that visible, it can be really, really difficult to actually know what it is that you need to do. So, one of the things that I would say is just be honest about where you are, because if you're not honest, you're not going to make the right improvement. So, there's no right or wrong. Everybody's got to start somewhere. So, absolutely make it visible and share those results across your business as well. And there's a really important reason I say that, which I'll come on to. We were a bit disappointed with the results because we thought we were doing all the right things. But as I say, I think, the people that originally did this, which was a small group of people to start with, haven't been in the school environment for a long time. So actually there was a bit of disconnect and a bit of us understanding that we needed to understand the school experience and teachers and their needs in a bit more detail as well. When we did the assessment, I think there were some really quick wins. So actually it was, little things like going to meetings. So when you get the email that drops into your inbox that says there's a Careers Hub meeting or there's a Cornerstone Employer meeting, plan ahead and make the time to attend them, because you've got to be in it to really sort of understand and create those networks and those connections and those relationships. So I would say, start somewhere, but go to the meetings and just start to build and develop some of those relationships. And also as well, if you speak to your people function, I'm pretty confident they will have some material. We all recruit people, and actually it can just be modified or adapted to suit young people and to support them in activities. So build on that. Some of the things that took a bit more time, absolutely, making it not about one person in the business is really key, because one person is not going to have a huge impact. You need lots of people, but you need more people that are cross-functional in your business to support you with this. And I think the really key point there is cross-functional as well. I work in the people function. I have an idea of what happens in the operations team, but they really know what happens within their areas. So onboarding people from different areas of the business does take a little bit more time, because this is, in some respects, above and beyond somebody's job description, but actually the benefits for it, the long-term benefits for it, and also the satisfaction, I think somebody else mentioned that, might have been Louise earlier, the satisfaction people get from helping people, don't underestimate that, because it's really quite fulfilling when you get feedback from young people and you've really had an impact with them. It's fantastic. So yeah, some things do take a bit more time, but patience is key. So the next slide shows you what our next iteration of the employer standards looks like. So based on our 2023 results, we put together an action plan. So the framework is really easy to use. You can download it, you can put it into Excel, you can build an action plan, an internal action plan if that's what you want to do. But you can see here our scores did improve a year later, based on some of the actions that we'd sort of committed to doing. So Inspire went up from 43%, our Prepare standard went up from 19%, and then Collaborate went up from 27%. So some really good improvements there that again was really good and motivating to see. And how we did that, if you move to the next slide, was really understand the standard and what it's asking you to do. Try and break it down so that you're not overcomplicating it and not misinterpreting it as well. And use your Careers Hub and coordinator to help you do that, because they're really super helpful and they want to help you as much as you want to help them. One of the things that we did do, though, was really quickly recognise that, as I say, this isn't just for one person to move forward. You need a cross-functional group. So we recruited internally more enterprise advisors. So we have 7 EAs currently within our business, and we support 8 schools locally. So that's 4 SEND schools and 4 mainstream schools as well. So really important that you sort of get that traction, because actually you can distribute the activities that you want to get involved in, you want to deliver. Equally as well, there's lots of information on the Employer Standards website. There really is. So please do use it. There's job descriptions for enterprise advisors. There's networking events that people can go to. So really understand what's expected of you, so that you can really support in the way that's intended. The second point there around partnering with local schools has absolutely so many benefits. You can really sort of develop those meaningful relationships, and I think relationships here are so key. What we actually do is we partner our enterprise advisors that have a connection with a particular school. So, for example, one of our young people, Shani, she partners with Spalding High School because that's where she went to school. And so what she can then do is she can go to and deliver school assemblies. She has a personal connection with the school because that's where she went. But also the students there can relate to her and see her as a role model in terms of, oh, wow, Shani went to our school and this is now the career path that she's on. So it's really relatable and really real. It's a really real story. for example, with our SEND provision, where we've partnered people up with one of our SEND schools. Louise, who is our engineering manager, partners with the Willoughby school because a member of her team, his son goes to the Willoughby school. So again, there's sort of a real connection and a sort of a real sense of personal and emotional sort of connection and motivation for wanting to support there, and that works really well. So really think about who you can support, and obviously where you can get your enterprise advisors to connect with and support the schools. And then just a final point on here, just around materials and bits. I think I've sort of touched on it already, but yeah, don't reinvent the wheel is what I would say. There's lots of material out there available, and I'll come on to it, but shared learning as well is always really, really beneficial. So next slide shows you where we are last year. So when we did the standards, so 69% is up from 54, 59%. So this was the first time. So it took us 2 years to get above 50% in that prepared standard. So again, just be really honest about that. Sometimes it isn't a quick win, but actually 2 years later, we're above that 50% now, and obviously can build on that. So that went up from 38%. And then Collaborate was up from 69% as well. So we're still working our way through the framework. In terms of how we continue to use the standards, so just a few points here. Empowering your enterprise advisors. So going back to what I said around materials, training, and partnering them with a school that they have a relationship with, just empowers them. I lead the enterprise advisor team. So my second point around quarterly meetings, we've got one this afternoon, but they tell me what they're doing. They organise things directly with the school. They have a direct contact because they have that relationship. I don't have that relationship with the school they're partnered with. I trust them to be doing the right things, have had the right training, and also we get feedback as well. We get direct feedback from the school, so we know how things are moving forward and that the school are also getting a benefit from it. So really empower them and trust them to be able to do that job, because they are all there, they're all doing it as a above and beyond in their job role. So there's a real personal motivation for them to want to do it. Quarterly meetings. So as I said, we have quarterly meetings. So we'll all meet this afternoon. We will review our school year because we're coming to the end of the school year. So we'll have a review of what worked well and what didn't. But we're already now planning for next year as well. And I think planning is really key. Once you get to a point where you are regularly updating the standard, you've got regular activities, your relationships are in place. It's then about making sure it's planned in everybody's calendars in advance, which helps the school and the young people, but it also helps your business as well. So you can make sure everything can be fitted in. And keeping up to date with the changes. The standard is excellent for that because it evolves all the time, and everybody's needs and the educational system and needs change. So by using the standard, it is just that constant sort of pulse on what is required, and making sure your business is responding to that as well. Final slide is just around what I would encourage you to do. Just get started, be brave, don't worry about what it looks like. It's a starting point, and as long as you've got people that are committed to the process, it will get, you will improve, things will get better. And make it visible, but the standard makes it visible to you as well, and it's that metric piece. Once you've got that number, you're like, okay, it's a KPI, what can we do about that? As I say, think about how you want it to work and how it can work so that it supports everybody. You've heard from lots of people in different industries already this morning. The standards are flexible and will mean something different to everybody. So, just have a really think about what it is you want to do and deliver as a business, so that you can make that impact and that difference. And then also reach out. I mean, Marnie's put this together today as shared learning platform and networking, and I can already see some great questions coming through. So, reach out. People will want to help. And there's lots of shared learnings, no point in reinventing the wheel. I mean, Louise is, I've already seen an infographic Louise presented and thought, oh, that looks great. So, don't reinvent the wheel, people will be very happy to help. So, I think that's it from me.
Right. Thank you, Anna. That's really brilliant. Some really, really helpful messages in there. I'm sure lots of people will take from that. I'm conscious we've got Rose and we're running a little bit over time, and I'm keen to have time for questions. But Rose, I'd love to hand to you and just hear a little bit about how you're doing things at Midlands Metro Alliance as well. So, Rose, over to you. Oh, you're just on mute, Rose. Still on mute, unfortunately. Not sure if we can do anything for you centrally to do that.
How's that? Any
yes,
better?
you've done it. Yeah, thanks, Rose.
Oh, we've had a bit of a disaster today, haven't we, with IT? I tried my laptop, then I tried an iPad, and then I tried my work phone, and I'm now on my personal phone. So my
Thank
apologies
you.
if it's freezing. Yeah, I'll be brief. I think there's been some fantastic presentations which has covered so much. We've been working in the area for 10 years. We are designing and constructing tram extensions across the West Midlands. We are an alliance of 9 partners, and all of whom will participate and collaborate and support the careers work that we do. Some of the stats are on here that you can see. We've worked with about 260 schools over the last 10 years. Most of them we go into several times. Some schools we work with on a very regular basis with T-level placements and workplace visits, career fairs, that type of thing, mock interviews. As far as the sort of your work goes, we've been working with the Cornerstone Group for many years and with the Careers and Enterprise Company from 2023. And I must admit, the first year I thought, oh, we're doing nice. This is great. But over the years, we've gone up and down on some of the standards, and it's been interesting to see. And we try and sort of, in actual fact, August is my time, probably similar to others, to sit down and go through and see what we need to do and how we need to improve it. We've always been good on inclusivity. We work with a lot of SEND and alternative provision schools. Part of our commitment was to leave a legacy for young people to promote careers in rail and construction. And I think one of the speakers already mentioned the perception. Our perception of working in the rail and construction sector is, middle-aged men digging holes in orange. So it's about changing that perception for young people and trying to sort of encourage them to look at our sector. We have a big skills gap, probably similar to others. So by using the tools that you've given us, we've certainly managed to improve on our building essential skills. That's gone up again this year, which is good. Raising awareness, we're at 100% this year, which I was thrilled about. Which we've done quite a lot of work on that side. We need to improve our engagement with colleagues, and I think it was Stephen who mentioned, I thought it was a really good shout about getting feedback from internal staff. We get feedback already from students and teachers, but we don't actually. I've not gone out to our internal supporters and said, what did you think about how we organised it at the event or the careers activity? So I thought that was a really good idea as well. Evaluate and improve, that's obviously part of what we need to be looking at. Preparing young people for application process. Again, we've improved resources for that. And we've sort of built a lot of resources that we've shared. And one of the things that I think is a really good idea is that I know through your website you're going to share some resources for others as well. We work very closely with West Midlands Combined Authority Career Hub, and we obviously sort of use their resources as well. We're as part of, I just think it's really important to, whatever stage you're at within this process, to not get disheartened by anything, because sometimes I've sort of filled the form in and then thought, oh, why have we dropped 5 points, panic stations or 5%, and I think it's just a case of trying to sit down and look at what you're doing. And I think what one of the presenters mentioned earlier, things change over a period of time, learning changes, and the way people respond, young people respond, changes as well. So it's about trying to build all that into the standards and how you're actually delivering the careers programs. We all want to help young people at the end of the day, you know, as is about leaving a legacy for young people in the region. But so I think any tools that can help you develop that and support that, and also promote to, shall we say, the senior management teams, you know, the incredible social value that there is within that that offer that we put out to schools as well. So that's really important.
That's great. Thanks, Rose. And I love the fact that even someone like you who's got a really established program are learning from the other speakers on this call. So I think that's the great thing about this this type of work, is that everybody is on a journey. Everybody wants to help young people have those opportunities, and the more we can learn and share, the better. And the employer standards is just one tool to do that. It's just a way of hopefully bringing together that good practice and that learning and just putting it in a structured way. So thank you to all our speakers, really appreciate it. I've seen that there have been a few questions in the chat. Some of them have been answered in the chat. I think interesting question around different industry consortiums and industry groups. We are doing some work with the Institute of Grocery Distributors, which speaks exactly to that first question. Yeah, always keen to work with different industry bodies to see how we can get that cross-fertilization within sectors, but also for an event like this, you know, between sectors as well. And just in terms of finals, so we, you know, if there are any final questions, do pop them in the chat. But just wanted to sort of mention, I think it's come through really clearly today that the idea of the Employer Standards Tool is that you will build it into an annual cycle, that using the assessment is just the first step, and then using the resources, talking to the Careers Hub. That's come out really strongly today about the value of that support from the Careers Hub at a local and place-based level. Talk to, you know, the hub and other activity providers, specialist providers have been mentioned today, particularly if you're looking at some of the SEND needs. And I think a great example from Booths and working with the Down syndrome charity and others to really look at those particular support needs that you can have and the real impact that you can have with that specialist advice. And then each year come back and use it again, as we've seen that journey that people have been on. Just a quick tip for those of you who might not have done a reassessment before. When you go into your dashboard and you look at your dashboard, you have the option to either start a new assessment where you answer the questions from start to finish as you would have done the first time, or you can opt for the copy and update. So if you know that you've only made changes which relate to one or two standards, you can quickly just go through and you only have to change your results in those, and it will give you a new score based on those new answers, but without having to answer every question if that applies to you, and that can make it a little bit quicker. I'm just going to go into the chat and see. Mainly thank yous, because I think everyone's looking at the time and I know everyone's busy, but thank you so much. We will be sharing a recording of this, so do look out for that if you want to share it with colleagues, peers, friends, associates, and do encourage others in your sector and networks to use the employer standards. Thank you so much to all our speakers. We really appreciated your time, and thank you for all our participants in joining and being part of it today. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.